So now when somebody comes to see me, like the pillars of health has expanded for me. So in naturopathic medicine, we think that there's a bunch of pillars to health that are necessities. And those are things like exercise, movement, nutrition, sleep, sunshine. And the things that I've kind of added to that through the personal growth story are community and bonding is hugely important. Not hugely important. It's a human necessity. The ability to self-regulate, I would add as a pillar for health. So our ability to actually self-regulate through our nervous system is something that's essential. And that's where, the research behind walking and yoga and meditation comes in.
Yep.
And then our ability to feel a sense of purpose and meaning, I think, is a human pillar that we need. It's not icing on the cake. It's a need. And then the need for authenticity. So I'll reference back to Gabor Mate, but he really believes that there's two core human needs, which is bonding and authenticity. And bonding will trump authenticity. And so a lot of the work I do with people is really telling them back their story and kind of seeing how, you can lose parts of yourself or, your authenticity can degrade in order to bond or attach with somebody else. And that's not your fault. That's survival. And you did that for a reason. And we can now look back and say, okay, you were really creative as a child and you let that go because it didn't fit the norms of your family. But now can we revisit it? Because you are safe here. Like you have the ability to fully express that now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really powerful and interesting. I think I'm glad we had the opportunity to look at that. What it reminds me of is the naturopathic therapeutic order.
Yes.
It's so clear. It's like you have to have that foundation. The lowest level is, turning on or like dealing with the social determinants of health, which is some of those things. And then that next level is looking at like the obstacles. And I think a lot of what you're talking about there is the obstacles to cure. The further I go into medicine, the more the naturopathic therapeutic order just speaks to me as just sort of like something that is a North Star for people who are really trying to think about how to create healthy humans and then how to reorganize healthcare around the creation of healthy humans.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've had my own hero's journey in medicine in that way, in terms of like I started out in naturopathic medicine and that's the school that I went to. And then I kind of had this like rebellion against it. It was like, yeah, it's like biohacking technology, like anti-aging. I want to be like in like the know and the hip. And as I've kind of gone through my career, I'm really returning back to the therapeutic order of naturopathic medicine and its real foundationals, which are tried and true.
Beautiful. Well, Bill, I guess one last question I have for you is, for doctors and practitioners who are listening to this, who sort of maybe recognize that there's some deficit of consistent personal growth happening in them, either themselves or more likely, in their patients. Where are some jumping off points that you'd recommend for practitioners to think through, how am I doing and how can I do better?
Yeah. And I think it's a personal thing for them to do themselves. So I think as you do it yourself, you're able to see it in your patients and what you can offer them. And so, in terms of where to start, I think it's looking at your patient population. But my belief is that a lot of chronic disease evolves from some sort of traumatic response during childhood or later in life. And so I think understanding trauma and the physiology behind trauma, what actually happens in the body when somebody experiences trauma, is hugely important to the treatment of chronic disease. So I'm not talking about you get an acute infection, but I'm talking about something that has developed over the years, whether it's high blood pressure or whether it is IBS or, even inflammatory bowel disease. Like, how did we get here? And to understand how the human body gets there is really, really important. And we have research behind it. Like, we have real evidence that shows that trauma affects our physiology and can contribute to chronic disease. And so that's where I tell people to start. There's a great book called Waking the Tiger by Levine is the author of that one. And he really goes into how does a trauma get converted into something that's actually stored in our body and can result in pain, discomfort, and, chronic issues like arthritis or something like that. The other one that I love is The Body Keeps the Score. So between those two books, I think are a great launching pad for practitioners that are interested in this to dive a little bit deeper, and the world keeps expanding from there.